Let's get to you into the preview, though. Yeah, he has been an absolute stalwart, no question, though. Race 2, the first race we look at Riccarton today is the Zilko Premier, where Middegard, who was terrific on the first day, getting home nicely, 3:21.45. We know how potent that the Kevin Myers team is over this carnival. Ryan Elliott doing the riding there. Vasiliki at $6.50, $7 for Turncoat, Nakayama at $7s and $9 for Paddy Burke as well, that have opted for this race. We can say good morning to Thad Taylor. Thad, thanks for joining us here on the Punters Lounge Live, and you can give us a bit of a lead, ideally, on race 2.
Yeah, I certainly can, Aidan. I'll do my best. And obviously, Middegard looks the obvious one after that first day win, $3.20. There is solid support there. But the most intriguing thing about the whole day, Aidan, is these different form lines we get from both these days of the carnival, then the newcomers to the carnival. So makes for a challenging day. A newcomer to the carnival in race 2 is Vasiliki, who's in tremendous form. A lot of seconds in that form line, and in a win as well at $6.50. That has been the shortener in the race against Middegard. Matthew and Michael Pittman have 2 in the race. Turncoat, who I'm still having nightmares about on Wednesday in the last race. It was an absolute diabolical result. Today we can't sell a bet on it, and Nellie Bly at $19, I think it was 23s or 26s upon opening, is the way they're going. It lost the rider at Wingatui last start, but a little bit of interest in Nellie Bly against Turncoat, but of the stablemates, that's the 2 they're backing. Paddy Burke's an interesting runner. He was fierce on Wednesday on the inside of the track. We know he's better than that. They think there's improvement in Paddy Burke, and Suggestive Looks as well wasn't bad on the first day. That's been a bit of a mover at odds as well, 17 to 11. So I've gone on a little bit there, Aidan, but there's going to be a lot to dissect in all these races today at Riccarton.
Yeah, exactly, and the speed will obviously be an influence as well. Let's have a look at the speed map for you here with Turncoat going forward. It was pretty patiently ridden on Wednesday and winning. Black Label to get forward, Opia Rose and Nakayama also getting forward. That makes a really good point, doesn't he, Matt, about these different form lines coming in, the wins from last Saturday, Wednesday even with the case of Turncoat, and those fresh runners to the meeting.
Well, Turncoat's obviously going up in weight, Greg. What do you sort of make of that? Is that going to be a big factor for him today?
Oh, I think it definitely will be. Really good win the other day. I just think that, like, I was keen on it on Wednesday, but not so much today. I'm not saying it can't win, but I've found a couple others that can. Nakayama was outstanding here on Wednesday, and this rain is exactly what they've been looking for. Middegard was really good on the first day as well, so you've got to give it a terrific chance. Nellie Bly, yes, the coat pullers from the Pittman team have been talking about it, and it can definitely run in the money. And the other one I thought you have to have is probably Turncoat, but I just don't see it as a winning proposition today.
I'm the same as you here. I really like Nakayama, and especially with the loose nature of this afternoon's track is going to help her. The daughter of Swiss Ace, couple of scratchings out of the race. You've got to give Turncoat a chance as well as Middegard. What do you sort of make of Middegard on these sort of track conditions? You would imagine that he'd be very much in the same boat as Nakayama.
Yeah, definitely. It's the one for Nakayama to beat, but I'm pretty keen to probably play both of them, to be fair.
Okay, Aidan, that's our thoughts on race number 2 on the program. Back to you.
Matt, just before you go there, you're talking about rain. How bad is it there?
Oh, it's been pretty persistent, hasn't it? It's been very persistent for the last hour, and looking out over our shoulder, I can't imagine that it's going to be going away anytime soon. So the heavy track conditions with the rain on it, it'll loosen it up a little bit, and I'm sure that might help some horses and just get the stickiness out of it. So, yeah, horses like Nakayama and Middegard, it should be right up their alley.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see how that affects Shamal's chances in the National as well. Let's move you on to the fourth, Matt. This one, the Heat Store Premier over the 2,000 metres. Favourite is Galway Gary at $231.32, $6.50 per mare, $8 for Yum and $9.50 for locally sourced. Thad, Galway Gary absolutely spaced them here last week, and that tap, that's what you talk about, turning it off. How's it going?
Yeah, I don't know if we've got there yet. I don't know if we've found the bottom of Galway Gary at 2.38. And look, if Galway Gary comes out and runs anywhere near to that level on the clock and with the figures that we saw on that first day, he will be winning. There's no doubt about that. But Galway Gary's a horse that's had 40 starts for 4 wins. So I guess there's a question mark whether he can back up in a race like this. But really the whole story in this race from our perspective is Galway Gary and what he did on the first day, and certainly the money for him. He was $2.80 on opening into $2.30. It is one-way traffic. There's nothing really else to talk about. At a stretch, I could mention the man for the Anderton team there. The form line not overly impressive, but there is some sprinkling for it at long odds at $21, and maybe I'll have Bubbles, who traditionally runs reasonably well on this last day of the carnival. But one-way traffic here, Galway Gary. If he can repeat what he did, he will win.
He just set off them on the first day and then took over and put a space on them. 13 lengths the margin for Galway Gary. Let's have a look at the speed map for you here. With all the speed out wide, I'll have bowls locally sourced Iwo Jima and a bit of speed from pickup as well. Matt, Galway Gary, just looking at it, he could have been a horse who could have gone around in a Winter Classic today.
Well, the way that he won and the winning margin, he's going to take some stopping today, and it wouldn't surprise you if he just did what he did the other day again.
Yeah, if we have a look at that for you now, you'll see him explode away. He won by 13 lengths. You're right, he goes up in weight, but a replica, as Thad's just said a couple of times, of this would see him winning. He just got himself into the clear and burst away. Track conditions will be the same. I suppose the only knock on him was this was his first ever win here at Riccarton Park, so it hadn't been a course he'd been a fan of in the past, although he'd been placed a few times, but this was so dominant, Matthew, that it's very, very hard to find a reason why he won't win again, and that's why the punters have come for him, and the $2.80 has been well and truly snapped up. The man won this race last year. He's much better than his form line would indicate. We'll hope to catch up with Shane Anderton leading into this one to get an idea of where they feel he's at this stage of his campaign. Corey Campbell does claim a couple, so that will be a big advantage for him. It really is a case of if Galway Gary doesn't win it, you're going to get terrific value around a whole lot of other runners, but finding those other runners is not going to be easy.
Aidan, I think that Galway Gary could potentially run 5 lengths worse than what he did here last Saturday, and he'll still be winning. The $2.30 and the information from Thad, I think, should give punters at home a lot of confidence. Locally sourced was pretty good as well in that race, albeit beaten a long way. So for trifectas and first fours, we know that it'll roll forward and cop track conditions this afternoon. But yeah, he looks one of the bets of the day, Galway Gary.
Yeah, a really good race, the fifth of the card, the Brackenfield Hunt Premier of the 1,600 metres. Favourite here is Ophelia Lee. It wasn't a bad run on the first day and running fourth. In fact, that was in behind Galway Gary. So that form okay. Red Forest at 750 Whiskey in the Jar, who was terrific winning here. Red Rose Warriors going well, and our Teddy Boy was good in running at second the other day. Midnight Chaos there at 13s. What's the money lead here, Thad?
Yeah, look, as you can see, a $6 favourite here. Aidan tells the story, and there's a lot of form lines to try and bring together in race number 5 of the day. Look, Ophelia Lee was a very well-backed favourite on that first day and ran into Galway Gary and obviously was well beaten. And we haven't seen a lot of money for Ophelia Lee at this stage at around the $6. There's a few in this middle market here, Aidan, that I do need to mention. Our Teddy Boy was very good on the first day, just knocked off by Wafer late in proceedings. Whiskey in the Jar, the one you mentioned, they do like that again. They found that at long odds. There was a late move or late push for Whiskey in the Jar. I think it got into single figures late and was well into double figures with only probably 15 minutes to go. So a nice little betting plunge around Whiskey in the Jar. Tuilana was making good ground late in proceedings on the first day. I think it was Tuilana, so a little bit of interest there. That's currently at $11. And Rock Island Line, probably better than the last start run. He carried quite a bit of support on the first day. It's a little bit disappointing. They're expecting an improved run. So they're spreading it far and wide here. Whiskey in the Jar, Our Teddy Boy, Rock Island Line and Tuilana look to be all the each-way specials in the fifth of the day.
I don't mind Tuilana either. Let's have a look at the speed map for you. You'd expect August Ace to be right on speed. Far into that Lenehan, another speed factor in this. Matt, looks like a terrific race.
Those races, Aidan, where you could talk to 10 different people and they're going to find you 10 different horses and all with good reason as to why you think that they could win. I was a big Red Rose Warrior fan here. I think that he's got a little bit of class in his run at Ashburton last time out. The Neil Ridley factor. He had a win on this day last year. I think it was with He Can Fly, who went on to do a good job. But as I say, Greg, very, very open.
Yeah, this is the toughest of the day for mine anyway, but I reckon Lisa Ladder holds the key. I thought Father Lenehan was pretty good the other day. With the 4 kilo claim, it'll be right in it. And Rock Island Line got to the wrong part of the track. At that stage of the carnival, day 1, sort of 6, 7 wider than that, you're in a bit of power of pain, and his wheels started spinning and he couldn't quite get to them. He's much better than that. We saw that at his previous run, and I reckon he's worth having something on. So I'd be playing around the latter pair.
I think I'm going to back Red Rose Warrior as a part of the strategy this afternoon, Aidan. And he's a horse who came back from Hong Kong. He's done a pretty good job this time, man. And I think that run last time at Ashburton gave me an indication that he should cop the track conditions here today. And as I say, he's got a touch of class. Samantha Collett to do the riding aboard him. So at around the $8 mark, I think that he's a little bit of value on the program here this morning.
Good on you, Matt. Let's have a look at the feature. This is the big one. It is the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge 145th running of the Grand National Steeplechase. Favouritism is with It's a Wonder, a wide margin winner here last week, 280-132. Shamal 330, the horse who might be most affected if that track does get into the heavy 11 range, and Gargarin at 380 and 140. Thad, is it around these three, or is there a bit of money for something else?
There is a little bit of money for something else. I'll touch on it in a minute. And if you can see that tote price currently against the fixed odds price, you'll know exactly the horse that I'm about to mention. But just going back to the favourites first, Aidan. Look, Shamal and It's a Wonder, the last time they met, Shamal obviously towelled up It's a Wonder. But as you say, there's a couple of things in It's a Wonder's favour. The figures he produced on that first day were a new peak for him. So he looks to be improving all the time. And obviously that heavy track you mentioned for Shamal, look, that money is just starting to dry up. There was an early push for Shamal. Gagarin obviously is in play as well, and the step up in distance to more like the distance that won the at Trentham there, the Wellington steeples, I should say, will suit him as well. So those three sort of pick themselves. Des de Jour, I guess, is the interesting runner, and that was the horse I was obviously referring to earlier. We know the quality of him. He was pretty short last start against It's a Wonder. I think was certainly favourite or backed into favourite against It's a Wonder and fell again. Now the question mark for us is, it's happened a few times now for Des de Jour. This is an ultimate test in a Grand National, as we know, over 5,500 metres or maybe even 56. So his jumping will have to be improved. But look, just lining up the prices, he was $13, he's into 12. People, the Des de Jour fans, are certainly willing to take a gamble on him at that price. But yeah, if he can clear his fences, he's more than good enough to be in it.
Yeah, and you just got to respect Mark Olligan. His record is just outstanding at this carnival. Matt, we get to you, and this rain is starting to bring me more and more in the line of thinking of Gargarin. How about you?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Gargarin. We know he was so good over the 5,500 metres a couple of starts ago. You've got Chocolate Fish, who was so good in the Great Northern over the further trip. And Greg, we've just had that information come through from the stewards. Downgrade.
Yeah, John Otham just coming through and saying, look, it's a heavy 11 now. Pretty predictable, but yeah, it's been consistent, the rain in the last hour and a half, so yeah, down to a heavy 11. Great race, isn't it? Shamal looking to do, Ken Duncan is, what John Wheeler did some 10 years ago with Benny Osler in high season and get the double, and here he was last year. The track conditions were better. What I love about Shamal is he's an old school stayer, if you like. He was brilliant in this last year, I thought, beating Tai Ho, who then went north and won the Northern. So, you know, like that's terrific. Well, he won himself a Northern. It's a great form line, I think. His last start performance was outstanding. He carries less weight this time. Buddy Lammis is winning every major jumping race that we can put in front of him. And I think without doubt he's the one to beat. Top of the book, you've got to have Gargarin. You've got to have Chocolate Fish. He was great in the race last year, as we can see there, finishing third. And the looser track, I think, will be to his advantage as well. It's a Wonder was brilliant on the first day. Will he be as brilliant over the longer journey? Well, we'll have to wait and see. And then you've got the Wheeler pair, Mr. Enthusiastic, who's an up-and-coming jumper. And I've been told by a couple of people that they reckon Macklemore is better than Mr. Enthusiastic. And that comes from Kerry Hobbs, who's a great mate of John Wheeler's. So read into that what you like. They might be ones you play for third and fourth in your first four, but top of the book for me, Shamal.
Yeah, I'm much the same here, Aidan. You go to those old stages, as you say. They've been in a few dog fights, a couple of horses up the top of the book, and I'm going to settle with Gargarin, the Kevin Myers runner, Matthew Gillies to do the riding. I think that when they turn for home and get themselves over Jumbo, there'll be 2 or 3 horses well clear of the rest, and I think they're the 3 up the top of the book, and you can play around them with a bit of confidence. But looking forward to it. It'll be a great race, the 145th running of the Grand National Steeplechase.
Yeah, looking forward to the way that you and Mark McNamara call it as well. As always, the Matthew Cross. Let's get you on to the 7th feature sprint. Is the In Memory of Dudes Premier Open over the 1400 metres where Red Sierra 260-132 comes up favourite. Irish Excuse, terrific last week at 750. Tabard at 750 and King Cougar at that same price. Red Sierra, I thought was a standout here, Thad, but you eased the horse a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, look, he looks the obvious, Aidan. That'd be fair to say at 2.6. Obviously fourth in the Winter Cup, and this is one of these races where we're trying to line up the Winter Cup form versus that open sprint form on the first day versus a couple of 82s stepping up. So a tricky race, an intriguing betting race, and yeah, look, $2.60. Again, it looks the obvious, but on a heavy 11 at Riccarton, there's certainly a few willing to spec a few others here. Irish Excuse was excellent on the first day. He carried 60 there with Lisa Alpress. He gets 60 again. That won't be a concern for him. In the 1400, I think will suit better. A couple out of the Winter Cup here, obviously King Cougar and Trudeau. Trudeau certainly wasn't disgraced. And I think the back to 1400 for King Cougar might suit as well. So they're right in play and have their supporters. And then a couple of Dynamic stepping up to this level from the middle day, but he was very good and is more than competitive. He's in great form. And Henny, she's better than that. I guess the concern for us now around Henny is the wet track or the very heavy track. She's good enough. She loves Riccarton. She's got a great second up record, but to whether she can improve enough on that first day run remains to be seen. But yeah, it just makes for an intriguing betting race when you've got that favourite that they don't mind, but they've got a few around it, particularly Irish Excuse and King Cougar, Aid.
Yeah, that is interesting. And yeah, Henny's trial leading into that first up run was good enough to say there will be improvement out of the first up effort. But here's the speed map. We've got Peso going forward. Peso's best speed has normally been over longer trips. I thought Ratio 10 was the likely leader here with Trudeau and King Cougar likely to get handy. Also Dynamic according to our speed map here as well. Matt, we get to you. I was really keen on Red Sierra here, and I just thought the horse was a big chance on what we saw last week.
Yeah, and you just got to look at that heavy track form, 4 wins on heavy tracks, and look, she's a get-back sort of a type, Greg, and that'll probably suit her here because it doesn't look like there's an overall amount of speed.
Yeah, she deserves to win this. Her run in the Winter Cup was outstanding. Look, I can see her being a lot closer this time, and therefore she'll be able to round them up. I'm in love with Henny, have been ever since she came to Riccarton for the first time, and she's only been out of a place 3 times, twice at her first 2 runs when she was 4th, and she was in the first day, and her first up record's nowhere near as good as her second up record. It's outstanding. We spoke to Mike Breslin last week, and he said, I couldn't be happier with where she's at. I am worried about the loose nature of the track by this stage of the day, though, whether that will suit her. It will definitely suit Red Sierra. She'll charge home, and I think she'll win today. I think Aidan's on to that there. Henny is a must include, as is King Cougar, and Irish Excuse was just brilliant on the first day. He's been a marvellous horse for Alice Winslow. It was great to catch up with him last Saturday and have a chat to him about a horse he has so much admiration for. He's won 14 races now, Matthew, so he'll give you another great sight. Lisa Alpress takes the ride, and he'll be right in the finish. 60 kgs on this track, though, is going to be very, very difficult, I think.
She's going to take some stopping. Aidan might be a wee Galway Gary, Red Sierra sort of multi-day, I think, with a couple of shorties on the program. But yeah, you could probably back those two with a fair bit of confidence.
Yeah, talking Alice Winslow, geez, he's done a good job with that Irish Excuse, and he did carry 60 to win last weekend in testing conditions as well, so you can't just write him off. Okay, let's move you on to the flat feature of the day, the Christchurch Casino Winter Classic, where Des looking to go back-to-back in this race and also go back-to-back this week after winning the Winter Cup last Saturday. Is at 240 and 130, Rosewood at 280, 132, $9 Little Miss Swiss, and Noman Ludi at 950 and 240. Thad, we saw Des winning this race last week, but the money at 240 with the big rise in weight, has that put punters off at all?
It certainly had an early aid, and look, if anything, with the 2 favourites that Quinella of the Winter Cup have both moved in. So what they're telling us is that it really is a 2-horse race, and they both were value. 250 into 240 Des, Rosewood 3 into 280. Rosewood meeting Des 3 kgs better off in this race, and obviously hasn't been over 1,800 metres before, but all the racing pattern would suggest it won't mind at Rosewood. So look, it looks mouth-watering clash and potential if there is a party pooper. And when I looked half an hour ago, it wasn't a losing result. It is now, and that's Little Miss Swiss for Kelvin Tyler. It was making late ground in the Winter Cup. I don't think it'll mind the loose track conditions. It'll get there this afternoon, and at $9, there's been a little bit of a nibble there, particularly in the last couple of hours. But yeah, all the early money was with Des, Aidan, and just this morning Rosewood sort of firmed up against it. So they've got it amongst the top three. Take your pick, but it's going to be an intriguing battle nonetheless.
Yeah, sure will. Here's the speed map, the Gordonian getting forward with Lookout, who was pretty good on Wednesday, Matt, but yeah, as we say, a lot of respect around those proven two horses at the top of the book.
Yeah, exactly, Aidan. They bring some solid Central Districts form lines in. Des, the winner of this race last year, he was so potent there. Rosewood under 60 kilos is going to be a bit of an ask for her up to the 1800.
Yeah, it is, Matthew. 6.5 kilo rise for Des, and Rosewood goes up the 4. The horse that benefits most from that is Noman Ludi. This is the Winter Cup, of course. Noman Ludi went a cracking race for a horse that was only having start 29. It's trained by Alice Winslow. I reckon it's the best value in the race. Have a look at the horse out painting the fence down the outside. Her name is Little Miss Swiss, made up an enormous amount of ground. I can see why the punters are starting to think she's worth having something on. She does rise in weight, and that's why I really like Noman Ludi. I've gone for Des on top because he's the class for me to take the race out, but more and more I'm warming towards Noman Ludi. I think on an each-way basis, as we'll see when we get to my play at the end of the day, which, by the way, has been a disaster on the lounge. I'm looking to turn that around today.
All right, we like your confidence there, Greg. It's going to be a fantastic battle, this one, Aidan. Des is going to take a whole heap of stopping. I like Greg's thoughts around Noman Ludi, the son of Nom de Jure, and Little Miss Swiss. Well, she's going to be aided by the track conditions, especially when they are getting to the outside that late in the day. So she's got to go in the mix as well. But the two up the top of the book, class is permanent, isn't it? And I think they'll be fighting out the finish.
Okay, let's give you $100 each and spend the meeting there, Matt.
All right, let's have a look at it. Gee, it's cold here, isn't it? It is absolutely freezing. I'm going to start off with race number 5, number 8, Red Rose Warrior. Have a little look at him. I think that he's a big chance on the program today. Gargarin in race number 6, 25 to win. Trifan, a son of McPhee, first up in the south for Terry Ray and Lisa Allpress. And Mamba in the last race on the program. Former Baker Forsman runner. It's in a weak race, race number 10 on the card, and I think that she'll be winning, Greg. So $100 across 4 races. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to kick things off nice and early with Animator. Very good run on the flat the first day. Really talented jumper this. Spoke to Keith Horton about it on day 1. He said this is the race we're here for. So I'm happy to back it. To win my multi is Galway Gary into Shamal, and then I'm happy to have something each way on Noman Ludi. Can't see it missing a place. If you're playing multis, I'd be including that for top 3 for sure. But terrific day ahead. Always is a great day. Grand National Steeplechase Day, and when it's the 145th running, Matthew, you know that it's been a special race for a very long time, and we'll get another great edition of it today.
Just quickly before we go back to Aidan, Jockey's Challenge is interesting today. You've got Chris Johnson, Lisa Allpress. Lisa at 3.30, the favourite, but you found a bit of value.
Cosy Azano. We've been talking about him all week. He sits on a horse really nicely. He's got the claim. That'll surely have a part to play today, and he's got a good book of rides, so I'll be having something on him at $5.75 at last look.
Okay, Aidan, we've got the money back special as well on races 1 and 2 here this morning. Of course, if your horse runs second or third, up to $30 win bet, that'll be refunded into your account. Set for a great day of racing. It's not warm and it is raining, but we've got 10 winners to be found across the card. There should be a couple of spectacles, none other than the 145th running of the Grand National Steeplechase.